Welcome to the Make Space for Growth podcast. My name is Sara Vicente Barreto, and I'm your host. I'm a corporate strategist, problem solver, social entrepreneur, writer, mom of two, and passionate for growth. At home, in business, or in my community. This is season 1 of the Make Space for Growth podcast, Finding Growth in a Crisis. In this season, I have asked amazing women leaders around the world to join me in a fireside chat about how they have dealt with lockdown and the COVID-19 crisis. We spend time learning about their businesses and inevitably talk about how they've coped or not in their business or in their homes. 2020, with all its turmoils, has been an inspiring time. I find crisis can create excellent opportunities for cleansing, decluttering, and finding new avenues. At home and in our business, crisis can make space for growth. Join me for this journey to find out how, because it is time for hope and light. This is episode 9 of the Make Space for Growth podcast. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. I hope you enjoy our conversation today. If you're a regular, make sure you hit the subscribe button and do drop us a review. I'm told it's really hard, but I'm sure you can do it. I would be ever so grateful. I have taken Make Space for Growth to Milan, London, Berlin, Lisbon, San Francisco, New Jersey, and Singapore. I'm finally heading to Brazil to meet Adriana Barbosa. Adriana is the CEO and founder of VAIPE, an employee engagement platform that empowers leadership through data. And you know how much I love data. Adriana graduated in business administration from Fundação Getúlio Vargas in Sao Paulo. She structured high-performance teams with the application of agile management technologies in contexts of digital transformation, revenue generation, and operational efficiency as founder or part of the founding team of 3 startups, Mobley, Payleven, and now VAIPE. She's a specialist in people analytics, and the future of work. Today, we're going to talk about VAIPE, the company she founded in 2016. VAIPE is an active employee engagement management platform. Through digital service via Microsoft Teams, Slack, SMS, and email, companies give voice to employees. They also empower leadership with assertive data and encourage the exchange of recognition and feedback. In the last 8 months, VAIPE helped employers be closer than ever. This is a time of change for work all over the world. Employers will hear the voices of employees better through data, and VAIPE is there to be part of the transformation. If you heard me talk about data before, you know how much I'm obsessed about its role in corporate decision-making. So I'm excited to bring you Adriana today. I hope you are too. Let's dive in. Adriana, welcome to the Make Space for Growth podcast, and thank you for accepting my invitation. Before we go and talk business, may I ask you, where are you from, and what was your favorite thing to do as a child?
Great question. First of all, thanks a lot for inviting me and having me here. I'm super happy to be part of the podcast, and that's quite a hard question. I was born in a very small town in the state of Sao Paulo here in Brazil. And my father is a rancher, so basically, like all my holidays, we used to go to the farm, and it was quite far from my city. It was close to Pantanal, so it was quite fun to be on the countryside and be like running all around and playing during the holidays. And in my family, I have like like many cousins. So it was quite fun.
And what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, that's a good question. And it's quite the opposite, because I'm the countryside girl, and my dream was to be a businesswoman and to live in Sao Paulo. It was oh my God, I need to go to Sao Paulo and live in Sao Paulo. And that was one of the drivers. I didn't want to stay at my city. Besides that, giving my parents, they are entrepreneurs, but I was all the time inspired by that. I wanted to work for huge companies, stuff like that. So I wanted to be a businesswoman.
Yeah, and so that leads as well into it, because you did become a businesswoman. I did speak briefly about you on the intro, but can you give us a bit of a background on your business and how you decided to create it?
I studied business administration, and I started my professional career working for a consulting company, A.T. Kearney, mainly focused on FIG, Financial Industry Group, here in Brazil. right after like the initial path that I had, I said, okay, it's very cool to support companies on strategy and like producing a lot of PowerPoints and Excel files, but I would like to see like real action and execution. So I decided to join an education company here in Brazil. I was in charge to create a shared service for finance. So I was quite young, and it was the first time that I was a leader. Like I managed 40 people at the time. After that, I joined Mobly, which is furniture e-commerce here in Brazil. I was part of the initial team. And there I started like leading, managing 10 people, and at like 6 months after that, I was leading like 250 people. So it was quite amazing. One of my main drivers, I would say, is to support people development. After Mobly, I founded Pay11, which was the first payment company here in Brazil to sell POS instead of renting, and quite changed the landscape. I had an exit, and when I left, I said, okay, what should I do? And should I become a real businesswoman, like a VP working for a medium to large company or something like that? And I said, okay, no, let's do it again. And then I said, I love the challenge to manage people, to see like then growing, become like very important people, let's say, like in the role that they have right now. And I said there were many frameworks, management frameworks that I used to use with my teams, many data that I generated managing, and I understood, okay, marketing, finance, and many other verticals, they have gone through data reshape in terms of function, but that did not happen in terms of people. So people usually take decisions based on feeling when we are talking about taking people decision rather than data. And that's why I started VAIPE. So we are an employee engagement platform, and we support leadership and companies to build highly effective teams and highly engaged teams.
So that's great. And can you maybe just explain a little bit of how does the model work, and what type of services do you provide to a company?
So we are a B2B SaaS company, which means that we are a platform. So usually companies, and from like we started back in 2017 as a beta. December of 2017 was the time that we closed our major, like the first B2B company that was higher than 500 employees. What we do is we support companies on give voice to employees through surveys, through digital surveys. So we interact with employees by email, SMS is still happening here in Brazil, SMS, Slack, and Microsoft Teams. By doing that, we generate a lot of data that we empower leadership with data, like real-time data. And we also promote feedback and reward between employees. So that's a little bit how we play in terms of supporting the companies that we support here in Brazil.
And can you maybe share with the audience maybe what type of companies do you work with, any specific sector or any specific size or any specialty that is helpful to know?
As the majority of the B2B SaaS tech platforms being an HR tech or non-HR tech, usually when we get started, like the majority of the companies are other tech companies and fast-growing companies. So here in Brazil, we support like many fast-growing companies like PicPay, Tigio, Jus Brasil, Conta Azul, like companies that are the main or one of the main players in their fields in terms of tech. But we also started supporting more traditional companies as like the major hospital here in Brazil, the major bank here in Brazil. So these kind of business, more traditional, more stable, not fast growing business, we are also supported here in Brazil. So we have like companies or teams that are like 20 people, or we have like companies that are more than thousands and thousands of people, of employees in our platform.
That's exciting. So can you, before we talk about the crisis, can you tell us just what size of team are you today, and where is the team located?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like we are bootstrapping. Like during Pay 11, like Rocket was backing, so plenty of money, etc. And now I decided to go bootstrapping. So our team's not huge. Like we are 12 people right now, and but like we have an efficient mindset. And
Mhm.
we understand that technology matter more than having a huge team. Before, we were located here in Sao Paulo, in Pinheiros, exactly, in
So
Pinheiros.
let's jump right into it. But I know you're going to talk about
Yeah,
how you were quick to move, but it was interesting because when we first spoke, you said that you were very lucky and you got wind of COVID a little bit before maybe other people and how it could impact you. Can you give a bit of background on how that happened?
so basically, VAIPE, besides being a platform, we also like the partner of the companies on building highly engaged teams, which means that we have a customer success team who supports our customers best practices, putting them in contact with other companies to understand like these challenge that you have, that company is approved, so you should benchmark with them. We serve health companies here in Brazil. What happened is twice a week meetings with customer success team. One of them said, Dri, I had meetings with this and that company, health companies this week, and like I'm very worried because it was like before carnival here in Brazil. She was very worried because like they are traditional business, they did not have any work from home policy, and before carnival one of them was already working from home. And then I said, okay, let's schedule a call with the head of HRs. And I remember this day, it was like Wednesday. I was working from home that day. And when I left the call, the first thing I went to my husband and I said, you have no idea what's coming. I was freaking out because, like, okay, we were listening to TV and what was going on in Europe and what was going on in other part of the world that was before happening in Brazil, but we did not have like the scale that it was. This company specifically is a health tech company. It's owned by doctors and very like good doctors in their field. And they said, okay, the point is, we're not getting back to the office, like at least until 2021. And it was like February. So I said, oh my God. So
So
it was quite.
you got this early indication, you got a bit of a secret before everyone else. What did you do? What changes did that make you do?
Okay, so basically at that time, I also have like my sister lives in Switzerland and I have a couple of friends in Europe. And so they were also talking to me and saying, please go to the supermarket, have like food for 4 weeks or something like that. So basically, I stopped it and I said, okay, what should be our like plan right now with the team? So I grouped everybody and we discussed it. Hey, so we had this conversation with this company and they said this, and that. So basically, what we're going to do is every single day, by the time that you leave the office, you will take everything with yourself. Like everything. Like you're not coming the next day. So we started doing that. I remember it was a Friday. I went to a meeting with a client, a customer. The head of the HR was exposed to COVID two
Yeah.
days before. And like she told me saying, oh, I was exposed, but it's okay. Like I will get to know like in a couple of days. And I was like, oh my God. So basically, I came home and then I said, everyone, so I hope you got everything from the office because from
You're
tomorrow
not
on,
coming
we're
back.
not coming back. So nobody's coming back. So everybody was quite prepared. What we understood also with our customers, because like from the surveys that we made, we understood that all the companies played a very unique role during COVID. So one of the things that the employees understood is that COVID was explained to them by their employees and not employers and not by the government. So it was so fast that like employers had an essential role in informing and teaching what it was COVID, what you should do, how to behave, how to take care of your health, etc.
And so, what happened to your offices? Have you not been there since?
At that call, I understood that no matter one thing, we would have one wave, then we would come back and we would have a second wave. That scared me. The second point is we will not have a vaccine in the short term. So at least we will have like 12 months from February or March to have a vaccine. Apparently, that's what's going to happen.
Let's see.
Yeah, there's no sense exposing people if it's not mandatory, if it's not essential. So the kind of like we already have many rituals. I used to go to the office twice a week. There were people that would go one day per week. Other would go more often, but basically all the meetings that we had, like we have customers from all over the place here in Brazil, like from the south to the northeast, which means that the majority of our customers, we have never met them personally. Like we run the business and we run customer success over video meetings, etc. So we had this ritual. Given we would not that until next year, we decided to shut down our office. And we took the decision like a couple of weeks after we went remote. But for us, it was quite easier because our team's not that big. Besides that, we had already this work from home policy. So it was much easier. But what we are seeing now, like with companies like ranging from 500 employees to thousands of employees, the majority of them, they are not going back as it was before. By serving employees, like only 8% of them would like to have the same schedule in terms of being in the office as they had before. 8%, 92%
Well, that's probably one of the lowest numbers I've heard so far, because I've heard pretty low numbers, but that's definitely very low. And so you told me about your team and about your offices and even a little bit about your clients. But what happened to your revenue? What happened to your business? Did you have contracts canceled? Did you have more demand than you had before? What happened?
That's a very good question. So we are a SaaS company, and our main driver for MRR employee charge like a monthly fee per employee, which means that, like, for example, there were a couple of segments that we serve, like mobility, like retail, that they were very harmed by COVID. So for these customers, what we did is we tried to negotiate like a period, an exemption period, or decrease like the give them a discount for a specific time, but that harmed us like 30% within 1 month. 30% of our MRR was compromised. That impacted us financially, and also that's one of the points that we also decided to shut down the office, because like it would make no sense to keep the office and all the operational costs, fixed costs to maintain that not being there.
You were very quick to react on the cost side. But one of the things we've been hearing a lot of on the podcast is a lot of the companies, they got closer to customers in this time.
Yeah.
Some of them, they were brands, and it's because they were closer to people that had time at home. But in your case, your customers were companies, which sometimes may sound a bit more impersonal. But actually, you told me that you launched this initiative, which brought you closer than ever than before to companies, and actually brought a lot of companies to you. Can you talk a bit about that initiative?
Even though we serve companies, like it's a person in the other side of the video, right? Sponsor. Basically, one of the drivers that we also decided to have that phone call with that health tech company is because like many companies were questioning the customer success team, like, what should we do? Like, should we worry about that? Are there other companies like going home, etc.? So we needed to guide our customers over COVID. Basically, what we did is we grouped it with other companies here in Brazil. One of them is Vitude, online therapy platform. We grouped it with HSM, which is a very well-known professional education company. We grouped it with Grupo Kronberg, another education company for companies, and we set up what we call it Quarentena VAIPE, so VAIPE quarantine, and we had three main pillars. One of them it was like pulses focus on COVID. So one of them it was focused on mapping how the employees understood the answer of the employers. The second one, it was focused on working from home, understand if communication was working, productivity. The third one, the mental health survey. And the fourth one, later one, it was the post to map if employees wanted to come back or they wanted to stay home or they wanted to increase the days per week that they wanted to have working from home. That was one pillar, the posts. So we offered for all our customers and also for all the companies not being our customers for free. So the second pillar that we had, it was the education part. We curated many materials focused on COVID to support HR and leaders. And the third one, it was WhatsApp here in Brazil is like huge. And so we put up a Quarentena VAIPE group, and like we have more than 250 HR leaders that exchange a lot, and it's happening until now. So basically, like no one knew what to do. And what we tried to put together is, okay, let's decide and share what we are doing. Be very fast on sharing knowledge and best practices, what worked, what did not work, so we can like navigate as good as possible during this period.
That's a fast response and obviously a risky move as well, as you went and offered all the service for free. But I'm imagining that you also had demand for new products from your existing customers, and especially you told me before about the mental health space. Can you talk a bit about how you adjusted your offering to your companies?
So basically, like all of our companies, they use it to run like regular surveys, like leadership assessment, and then engagement, continuous engagement surveys, run feedback, etc. They needed to have like very specific answers. So we supported them on enabling very specific surveys to map like details that they wanted to understand during the COVID. That's one thing that we supported then. Not only the community, but we also supported them during this period. For example, with the mental health, we started mapping mental health in the 14th week of this year. We had mental health survey running every single week. So this data is awesome because like nobody ever had this kind of data. But also we supported the companies because like what we did is we used the DAS 21, which is a scale of depression, anxiety, and stress. We decided not to run the depression part because we understood that companies would not have like the tools to support employees. And what we did basically is to support company to understand the stress level and the anxiety level. And as we, through the platform, we enable companies to cluster employees. Basically, the companies are able, for example, to spot this specific team is super stressed and super anxious, and we need to act very specific on that. And so we supported our customers on understanding that, but the main target, it was to move fast in terms of action.
That makes lots of sense, and it's an amazing amount of data that you collected. Dri, I know there's a lot of businesses struggling out there, and you certainly have suffered with the crisis, as you said. But we also want to show entrepreneurs that optimism is possible. Crises are tough, but they're also a huge opportunity for a bit of cleansing, a bit of change. You closed down your offices, you created some new angles. You're a clear example where crisis brought about positive change in your business. Can you talk about what you think is possible for you to do today that was not there back in February?
Like, we are very excited in terms of hiring. Like, we always wanted to bring like the best, the most talented people to our team, and we are picky on that. One of the things that, like, the first position that we opened after we decided to shut down, we were amazed that we could like hire like from anywhere. Doesn't have to be to live in Sao Paulo. But not only that, for also for the team that now can relocate if they want. So right now I have the first person on the team who will relocate. We will not live here in Sao Paulo anymore. For us, it's very good because like we are an HR tech, we are a tech company. We want the best people. Like, we support companies in terms of people, and so like having the best team in place is very important for the success of our team. We were very happy that the first position that we opened, we hired someone from Brasilia, and now we have two more positions open. We are recruiting right now, and probably we will hire not from Sao Paulo also, because like we are being able to bridge the gap. Like, people who are very talented, they have a very good background experience, but they did not have the possibility to work with us because of location. Now this barrier does not do not exist anymore, and that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity in the talent pool. Knowing what you know today, would you give yourself different advice if you had the benefit of going back to February? What learning do you think you had?
Wow, that's a very good question. The first month, it was very stressful. We needed to support our customers. We needed to support the community. But at the same time, we struggled because like we had 30% decrease in terms of revenue. We were very fast on taking all the actions that we had to take. We did not have to lay off anybody in our team. That's awesome. But one thing that I would tell myself is that, okay, by September, you're going to be able to hit 96% of your initial planning. So we had a decrease, but like last September, for example, our initial target, we did not change our target after COVID. We hit 96%. So that's awesome. Almost 100%. Like, we're in place to in track to deliver what we wanted to deliver for the year. I think like don't be so stressed in the beginning, because everything, like, what is happening to you is happening to the majority of the world.
If you don't mind, let's now talk a bit about your home as well. You're a high-performing entrepreneur. You launched a business that was having huge growth and then got hit. And I know you had working from home experience, but you were effectively locked down at home at some point. We told the audience you're in Sao Paulo. You've talked about your dream city, and this is our first podcast trip to South America. So can you share a little bit how the lockdown was there, what type of restrictions, and how did it go for you?
I understand here in Sao Paulo, it was like the first city and also state here in Brazil to start with locking down. We never went to lockdown as strict as it was in Europe, for example. That never happened here. We started like going home mid to end of March here. We had restrictions, but it was not as strict as it was in Europe. At first, I understood that the government was fast in terms of taking actions, but I think like despite other countries, what we struggle more, it was in terms of economic decisions. Like, it took very long, like for small companies, medium companies, and companies in general to have like economical package to not lay off people. So many companies laid off people because like they did not have any other option because the government was not supporting. It was quite hard. In terms of coming back, what happened is, so we started middle March. May, it was when actually it started ramping up the number of deaths. And this week, we hit the May numbers. Despite other countries that we had a steep curve and then we had a decline. Here in Brazil, we went high and we stood there as a plateau for quite a long time. In my case, for example, I am married, so I live with my husband and my dog, Hilda. And I did not see my family since February. So this weekend, it was like the first weekend that I went to my country to see my family. So I decided, like in my case, I decided to avoid that because I'm afraid that not that it could hurt me, but that I could hurt
Yeah.
my beloved one.
You were working from home all this time. I know you had lots of experience already, but maybe you can share a bit on how you stayed productive on a permanent working from home scenario.
I remember like October of last year, I was part of a panel and we were discussing like the future of work. And one of the things that I brought like in the discussion, it was like, okay, what's the sense of driving like 45 minutes every single day to get into the office, open the laptop and start working? Like it does not make sense to spend 1 hour and a half. I'm 34 right now. Over time, I have been taking more health decisions in terms of food. So I don't eat sugar. I don't eat soda, juice. Like there are many things that I don't eat anymore. So that's one of the things that at my place I used to do. But as I was in the office or in a client or something like that, I used to eat a lot takeout food, takeaway food. The other thing is my sleeping habit. I was always struggling, like going to sleep 1 a.m. and being in a rush in the morning because, like, I'm a person that I need to sleep 8 hours a night. Like, that's mandatory for me. So right now, my habit's completely different. 10 a.m., 10 p.m., I'm sleeping and I
Wow.
wake up 6 a.m. So that changed a lot. Like the other point is I'm a heavy smoker. During the COVID, I decided to quit. So during the treatment, like right now, I'm smoking 1 cigarette per day, being home and reevaluating all my habits, etc. There are plenty of things that I already changed, but that was one thing that it was quite hard for me to change. I have been studying a lot about lifelong learning because I understand that we will, maybe not me, but the new generations, they will live like until 120 years. So I understand that people should recycle then every time. If I'm like the CEO and founder of VAIPE right now, probably 5 years from now, I will not be the CEO and founder of VAIPE. I will have another role, another position, another segment, another profile, another role completely different. I like to study. So I'm doing a data scientist course right now. Now I can program and that's quite good. I'm very happy about that. Eating habits, sleeping habits, quitting smoking. So I forgot exercising. To be a nice person, I need to exercise. Otherwise, I'm not a good person.
Hey, we all need to know ourselves. Dri, I think, maybe you've given me a little bit of the answer already to my next question, but I'll still talk about it because we have alluded earlier to the podcast. Mental health is something that is very close to my heart, and it's been a tough time for some people's mental health. Whether, as you said earlier, because they were with family and children at home and trying to work, lost their incomes or living on their own, anything may have triggered that. And can you share some tips of how you have managed yourself and your mental health through this time, and maybe as a bonus, if there's any findings you have from your data that you could share with us, that would be amazing.
Very good question. I will start from the data. Like I told you that we have data on mental health since the 14th week of this year until now. And the last report that we released, it was the 38 on the 38th week. What we understood is the peak of the mental health, it was on May. So basically anxiety and stress increased from March to April to May when it peaked, and then it started to decline. Right now, we cannot affirm that we are on the same level before COVID because we don't have data before COVID, but we would say we are on the lowest level of stress and anxiety. One of the things that we understood from the data is that when we talk about mental, like depression, the most affected people were the ones that live by themselves.
And do you want to share with us any tips on how you managed your own mental health through this time?
For me, it was like exercise every single day, like exercise, food, and sleeping habits. So every day, wake up, have breakfast, and then study, and after that, exercise. Come back. Like I'm a very organized person, I would say, in this term, that it brings me serenity in terms of, okay, I cannot control what's going on in terms of economic, but my agenda right now, I can. So let's put like what I can do, what gives me joy to work.
Adriana, if you could pick one, and I'm sure there are many, what would be the biggest challenge that this time has brought you?
I'm a social person. Not seeing people, for me, it was quite hard. I love gift parties at my place. For me, it was very hard to be apart from my family. That for me, it was the most difficult part.
Tri, I want to end us on a light note. So I have a surprise round for you that I didn't tell you about before.
Oh my God.
But I only need one short answer to each of the questions. First word that comes to mind. What was your lockdown book?
Not very emotional. How to take smart notes. It's
I probably want to get it. What was your lockdown sport?
Running.
And what was your favorite lockdown technology?
Whereby Hangout, Microsoft Teams, WhatsApp video.
All of them, all of the above.
All the video.
What was lockdown's greatest lesson for you?
I don't need a lot to live. Like, I prefer to have my family rather than have like things.
And if you had one word to describe lockdown, what would that be?
Best time of my life, I guess, like in terms of getting to know myself.
That's one word. That's okay. I think we can live with that as one word. Dri, thank you so much for being at the Make Space for Growth podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you better. And I hope to hear a lot about VAIPE in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. I love it. It was an amazing experience. And now I need to introduce you to more women in Latin America.
Absolutely. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. I loved finding out about how Adriana helped her customers through the power of data. With Quarentena VAIPE, she was able to bring dynamic data to the companies on how their employees were perceiving their response to COVID-19, their levels of productivity at home, and importantly, their mental health. Adriana was quick to react in her business, not only launching new products, but also cutting down on non-essentials, such as having an office. At home, she also turned this crisis into an opportunity. She took the time to eat healthier, sleep more, and exercise more, all while she quit smoking and learned how to code. Talk about new opportunities. What were your biggest takeaways? Before I go, may I remind you this is the first season of the Make Space for Growth podcast. Please rate us and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. You can read more at makespaceforgrowth.com and share your thoughts on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. You'll find me in all of them. All links will be in the show notes. It has been a pleasure bringing this fireside chat to you today. I am grateful you are there. I get to do this.